Good evening, folks. Now, I was meant to do this video yesterday, but I simply ran out of time. The subject is about mixed couples or interracial dating and the difference between UK and America. Now, I'm going to focus on London and New York as a point of reference. Now, I'm aiming this video specifically at a certain type of an American. This is based on a conversation I was having with a relative who lives in New York, right? The type of person I'm aiming this video at is the type of American who hasn't traveled out of America and who's not really that clued up on what goes on outside of America. Now, I'm not being disrespectful when I say this. America as a whole is quite an insular country, and it can't be helped because for the Americans, if they want to go on a skiing holiday, it's there in America. If they want to go on holiday with a nice sunshine and beach, it's there in America. Everything they need is inside of America. So for the need to travel outside of America for many Americans is not that high. Whereas with us here in Europe, we tend to be a bit more open-minded, tend to be a bit more adventurous in terms of traveling. And our news feed tends to be quite more worldwide. Whereas in America, when I've been there many times, when I look at what's happening on the news, most of it is 90% of it is based on what's going on in America. So therefore, as a result, many Americans are not that clued up of what's going on. And some of them, their geography is really bad. Yeah, if you said to them, like, where is, I don't know, Iceland, for argument's sake, they wouldn't know what part, whether Iceland's in the Pacific or in the Atlantic, or whether it's north or south. So I'm just making a point here. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just pointing out a fact. So I was having a conversation with my cousin who lives in New York, and he was quite taken back at the high numbers of mixed couples or interracial couples in London in particular. There's high numbers in the UK, but London is the world capital for interracial dating or mixed couples. All right. Now, I should give an insight why that is. Now, I'm going to compare it to New York. The difference between London and New York in particular. London is not as segregated as New York. I've been to New York numerous times, and I've been to parts of Pennsylvania. But I'll come to that in a second. I may come to Pennsylvania in a minute, but I'm focused on New York. Right. So even though London has areas that are known for having, say, a lot of ethnic groups in it, such as, let's say, for example, like Golders Green, Jewish area. If I was to talk about Peckham, New Cross, Deptford, Tottenham, Harlesden, Stonebridge, it's known for being a so-called black area. If I talk about Southall in West London, Tower Hamlet, Wembley, these are known for Asian areas, as in South Asian, India, Pakistan, sort of that kind of Asia. If I also talk about Edgware, like Edgware Road, and Kensington, Iraq, Iran. If I was to talk about Stockwell near Brixton, a lot of Portuguese. You get the picture, right? And the far east, far southern, southeast part of London, like Plumstead and Woolwich and places like that, a lot of, when I say Africans, I'm talking pure blood as in, I'm Afro-Caribbean, so I wouldn't class myself as a pure blood, because if you go back through my family tree, as a result of slavery, there's mixture in it. So I'm not a pure blood, whereas an African is a pure blood. That's my terminology, a pure blood. Anyway, so, whereas New York, their black neighborhoods is really a black neighborhood. If I was to talk about Crown Heights in Brooklyn, Prospect Park in Brooklyn, you might as well, especially Crown Heights, you might as well be on a Caribbean island. For the length of time it will take for you to come across a white person, you might as well be in my parents' island or Grenada in the Caribbean. Whereas here in London, if I was to take you to the so-called blackest neighborhood I could think of, let me think. Let's say we use Stonebridge or Harlesden or Peckham in southeast London. if I was going to high street in any of those areas, within seconds, a white person will be walking past me, an Asian person will be walking past me, I don't know, someone from the Middle East. So there's still idea of diversity. It just so happens in those places there's a lot of black people compared to, say, somewhere like another part of London. If I was to say, I don't know, Hampstead Heath, for example. Right. So that's the difference between New York and London. You know, in New York, your neighborhoods are really intense. Like an Italian neighborhood is just pure Italians. A black neighborhood is just more or less pure black, and vice versa, and so on, so on, so on. And I haven't been to any other major cities, but I understand like Atlanta is very, very black. I'd imagine that when in America, it seems like when they have a neighborhood, it is concentrated also in that neighborhood. Whereas in London, or even or anywhere in the UK, a so-called black neighborhood or Asian neighborhood, there's still a good diversity of people. You just notice that there's one group of people more than everyone else. But even if I went to Southall, that's predominantly a lot of South Asians. There's still quite a lot of white people walking around. They just don't stand out as much as the Asians. You get my drift. So that's that element. Now, in terms of mixed couples, was something that's greatly overlooked. Let's talk about black man, white woman, or whatever, right? White women or women who are not black outnumber black women by, I don't have the statistics, but I'm just making a guess off my top of my head. Outnumber them by at least 10 to 1, at least 10 to 1, at least, right? Now, remember that if you're in a city like Atlanta, where it's like a pure black neighborhood, or you're in somewhere like Crown Heights in New York and it's a pure black neighborhood, your choice of black women is higher than a bro here in London as such. And to cap things off, to make things worse, is, I don't know how it is in America as such, but here in the UK, white women in particular, right, are known for being more forward and more open when they are interested in a man. So a white woman is more likely going to smile at you, eye you up, even approach you on the dance floor, more so than a black woman here in the UK. So as a result, a lot of brothers here are spoilt with the attention that they get from women outside their race. And as a result, from their point of view, when you get a pro-black person like Angel on YouTube, Angel Ike, whatever it is, and he's emphasising that black men should date more black women as such, from their point of view here in London, they're like, well, why would I need to do that? Why would I need to go through all the hurdles that black women tend to throw in their way in terms of proving himself and so forth and this year? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just stating how it is, right? I'm not saying what is right and what is wrong. I'm not saying what is good and what is bad. I'm just pointing out how it is. So from their point of view, it's like, why would I need to go through all that when I've got women approaching me and I could get laid, I could get a date? Why would I need to go through all them hoops? And so it makes them lazy. It makes them not all of them. Like I said in another video, here in the UK, okay, there's lots of reasons why black men in particular date outside the race, but there's 4 popular reasons in my research that I've done, right? Reason number 1, right? Some black men, they're simply not attracted to black women. And likewise, some black women are just not attracted to black men. That's it, how it is. I'm not saying what is right and what's wrong, but that's how it is. Then you've got reason number 2, where it's simply a case of who they meet at the time. They don't have no necessary preference, but if they happen to meet a black woman who's shown them some interest and love, they'll go there, and likewise. So it's who they meet at the time. Reason number 3, which is something that is very, very rarely spoken about. Number 3, that black man may find that he gets a better response from women outside of race most of the time. He gets more attention from women outside of race most of the time. So as a habit, he's drawn to where it appears he's more welcomed. And so the places he would go to, let's say if you're a man that's into soulful funky house or retro funk or anything, you tend to find there's not many black women that would go to a funky house do as much as with other women from other races. Yeah, there's still quite a number of them, but compared to if you went to a reggae rave or a bashment or something like that, you're going to find a lot more black women in the bashment do than you would in a soulful funky house do or a breakdance club or something, right? So his social circles determines that he's going to get more attention from women outside of his race. And then the reason number four, oh my God, bloody hell, shit, I bloody forgot what reason number 4 is. Well, let's go with number 3. Let's just go with three top reasons while I've got them in my head. So that makes a huge difference. So if you combine the numbers of women outside his race, giving him the attention, you combine it with the type of neighborhood you live in here in the UK, all that equals another thing as well. You got to remember, the black culture, as in black music. 90% of popular music is music of black origin, be it whether you listen to rock and roll, whether you listen to heavy rock, whether you listen to techno house music, it still has its origins in black culture. It's music of black origin. So, for example, let's say, despite all the problems that black men have in terms of economic progress and so forth, when it comes to social, in the social world, in the club land or party land, right? What do women outside their race see of a black man? They see, okay, Hollywood, lots of black men. Athletics, toned body and so forth, lots of black men. Music, black music is inclusive. It invites people in. A lot of people like black music, be it from reggae, be it soul, be it funk, be it house music. It includes. Whereas if you compare that to another culture, like say Asian, Greek, the only other culture that's inclusive, I would say Latino, like the salsa music. But take the salsa music put to one side. How many Asian music can you say that really invites a lot of people into its culture? How many equivalents of Jean Paul do you get of a black man in the Asian music world? How many? Look at the white artists from Elvis Presley. What's her name? The lady who died. What's her freaking name? I forget her name now. Amy Winehouse. Singing over black music and so forth. How many equivalent of that do you get in other cultures? You see what I'm saying? Now, and of course, and then you've got politicians in the White House and so forth, and a few politicians here in the UK. So from Clubland, right? There is a status with black men. I'm not saying it's the best status. I'm not saying it's number one status. I'm not saying that, because we all can agree, of course, the white man is the most desired man on the planet. Second to him, believe it or not, is black men. I'm not saying that we have it good. I'm not saying that for 1 minute. Please don't misquote me and say that we've got things absolutely brilliant. There's still a long way to go. There's lots of, I do reckon I don't live in some kind of utopic bubble, right? So if you combine those 3 things, you got black culture that invites a lot of people towards it. You've got social impressions, be it from politicians, actors, athletes, and so forth. Then you've got the neighborhoods that are fairly mixed, right? Compare that to America, like New York, for example, where it's much more segregated and there's much more of a race issue in America than it is in the UK. Yeah, don't get me wrong. We got our problems here as well, but it's not as overt. But we still got our problems here, but it's more so in America. So you combine all that together, then you get the results of a lot of black men in particular dating outside their race more so than everyone else. Because I remember one time I was having this conversation with a woman on YouTube, and she's saying, Asian men, as in South Asians, they don't date outside their race as much as black men. And I said, well, you're not comparing like for like, because again, Asian music is not inclusive. Asian representation in terms of the media and so forth. Here in the UK, if I say to most people, Mr. Patel, what do you think of? They're going to think of a man selling newspapers in a corner shop. I'm not saying it's right. There's a lot of successful business men and women in the Asian community, and they're leaps and bounds ahead of the black community by a long shot, you know. But in terms of clubland, an Asian man is not seen as cool or as desirable as a black man. So with all the money and all the status in clubland, it doesn't weigh so much, you see. So if they were getting the attention as much as black men get in clubland or partyland or social land, I think they would be dating outside their race more so. It's just unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever you would look at, they don't have the choice that a lot of black men have. So that's the reason why you don't get many Asian men. And plus also they got cultural restrictions with it as well. So they may well have no problem having fun with a woman outside the race, but in terms of settling down with them, that's another story. But I'm only here to emphasize how it is and why it is, right? I'm not saying what is right. I'm not saying what is wrong. I'm not saying what is good and what is bad. I'm just presenting to you the results and why the results are the way they are. So that's the reason why here in the UK, it's 7 times higher for mixed couples than Europe, and it's the number 1 place for the number of mixed couples or interracial couples in the world. So I hope that's been of help, because my cousin, he struggled until I broke it down to him. Then he said, "Oh right, I understand." Even like when we go to school. Now I know there's some schools in South London, it's predominantly black, and also in the East London, it's predominantly South Asian as well. But here in West London, the schools tend to be a bit more mixed, tend to be a bit more cosmopolitan. So when I went to school, there was a large diversity of people. So I got to mix with just a little group of friends I had. We were like United Nations. One of us, his parents came from Singapore. Two of our members are white English. Then the other 3 were Caribbean origin, like myself. So in terms of how we grew up, we grew up with the world around us. Polish, Iran, Iraq, India, you know, Italian, Spain. We grew up with the world. So mixing with people outside of our community or so forth is nothing to the children of the Windrush generation. So again, for you Americans who do not live the lifestyle that I've had or having here in London, I hope that makes sense to you, okay? I know it's been a bit of a long video, but you can't really break this down in 2 minutes, okay? So like I said, I hope this has been of help, and thank you very much for watching my video. Thank you very much. Excuse my hand reaching over to switch my camera off. Okay, bye.